Fort Wayne's riverbank has become a vibrant destination and one of the city's defining success stories. But they ain't done yet. Riverfront Phase 2B is underway, adding new public spaces, river access, trails, overlooks, and recreational amenities along the north bank of the St. Mary's River. Here to give us an update is the Director of Parks and Recreation for Fort Wayne, Steve McDaniel. Steve, welcome to the 260.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you here. Promenade Park was such a success. How did that influence this phase?
I think it kind of lent itself to, we saw the successes that we saw in Promenade. We wanted to basically build on those. And what we also saw was the private development that took off after we built Promenade Park. We wanted to make sure that we were lending itself as we built out riverfront development, that would be continue to have success.
All right, so we're gonna, let's put in some visuals. First of all, because I wanna talk what's included in this phase. This is where it's located, right? So where the identified area in the green, what is that? What are you calling that area?
So the Esplanade and the North Lawn area.
Okay. And what is going into this phase?
So along the Esplanade, we'll have the urban trail. It'll be a big walking area.
We have some video too that I think that we can put up that will show us from an aerial vantage point. Talk about what you're putting in.
So along Harrison Street, from there going north all the way up through 4th Street and the MLK Bridge, it'll be the cascading steps. We'll have a boulder mound that you see, a hammock grove. There are all kinds of things that are along this, I guess, pathway. And as we move farther north, we're going to get into the North Lawn. Adjacent to our work, we also have private development. The Schaub Metal Building is being renovated.
Okay, what's that going to be?
So there's a couple different things that are going into there: restaurants, nightclub, and then other spaces.
And that's the building we saw in the video?
Yep.
Okay, well, so see, these renderings are some of these areas. I saw that serpentine area. We saw that in the video.
So the Boulder Mound is an area where kids can go all the way up, and it's fully accessible. They get a higher elevation. They're looking down. They can also climb all over it. There's a hammock grove, the cascading steps, with this kind of like a mini area where we can do all kinds of different programming. And as you see, there's seats and tables in front of that. So kind of movable furniture like what we saw on Promenade.
So that's the hammock grove. And I think there was one more. Yeah, what is this?
So urban swings. One of the great things that we saw in Promenade Park that was very successful is all the different swings that we have. And so we have urban swings that are happening along 4th Street in the North Amphitheater. We'll continue that success. There's just all kinds of areas that you'll have for views down to look downtown. But it's also just part of that build out that we've been doing as part of Riverfront. We hope that it expounds and has a kind of a big walking loop for people to walk through.
Yeah.
We know that this is going to be a great thing that's going to lead into North River, but it also connects all of the area north of the river to Headwaters Park and Promenade Park.
So there's been talk of the North River District. Is that included in this phase or not included?
It is not included, but it lends itself to be right on the border as you move farther north.
What's the budget for this phase?
It's about $28 million.
And you had to, at some point, you changed some design elements, right?
We did.
Why was that?
That was a requirement from FEMA and permitting at the federal level. The build out of what you could do in the river had changed, and so what we had planned had to be shifted and rearranged.
So talk about how the city sees this park contributing to the economic development of the entire downtown.
So when we built Promenade Park, we saw the private development happen. We have riverfront, the Promenade, Riverfront Promenade. They have the buildings across the street, and then we have the Headwaters Loft. The Eddy is also being built. It's adjacent to this area. We see the Schaub Metal Building, more brewing. There's just so much more private development that's happening. So we feel that the public space that we're building here with Riverfront is that front door to all that private development.
Is there private development happening in conjunction with Phase 2B?
I think what we saw with the Eddy and with the Schaub Metal and more brewing is all tied to that.
How does environmental stewardship play into the design of this park?
So we're looking at how we're using stormwater off of this site. We're looking at how we impact the river, the ecological, the wildlife, and all of that is playing a factor as we pick and choose landscape materials. That's all playing a factor in that kind of whole combination.
What's been the biggest challenge of like building like right next to the river? Is that a specific challenge?
It is, but I think the permitting was our biggest hurdle in this project. I think we've got a plan that we're moving forward with, and we're really excited about how it's all going to develop and formulate into one kind of coalescence of a great project.
Will, by the way, are you on schedule?
We are.
What's,
So we're looking at completion towards the end of this year or first part of next year.
okay. And are you on budget?
We are.
All right.
So that's a great factor in the project.
So will people get to use portions as you build it, or is there going to be a grand opening?
We're still working on how that's going to be unveiled and opened up. There's a possibility that we might do it in phases, but we're not sure yet.
By the way, it seems like this is such a redevelopment. It's such a it seems like a very complicated process. Is this your expertise? You get to oversee these big projects, these building construction projects.
Yeah.
Is that your background?
It is. I've got a degree in construction management, but there is a great team that's working on it, both Parks and Recreation, but also other city departments. So kind of as a city came together as a whole, we're working at it collectively.
There are so many cool spots down there. Do you have a favorite spot on the river?
I do. The amphitheater that we see and the tree canopy trail, those kind of are my two big things. They're right along the river, at least in Promenade. I think this Phase 2B is going to have some great elements that are going to draw people to it. We as a recreation staff are also looking at what are we going to do to program that area and that space. And so we've got all kinds of great ideas, and we'll be putting that into motion in the spring.
Talk about some of those ideas, because I think that's what people will connect to. That'll be our touch point with this area.
So it could be lots of different things, from either art in the park and art vending and stuff like that, but also music. Lots of different small areas that can lend itself to having programming space just right there. So, I mean, there's a laundry list of things that the team is working on, and we just got to make sure that we can put those all into place. But the idea is to have program space to draw people in.
Yeah.
We also know that there's also a lot of new residents in the downtown area with all the new apartments that are being built.
Sure.
So there's a lot of people living right there that are going to use these parks and this space as kind of their front door and their front yard.
Yeah, such an exciting resource for the city. Thank you so much for coming to tell us about it. Construction on Riverfront Phase 2B will extend through the rest of the year. You can learn more about the Riverfront Development Plan at fortwayneparks.org.